Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all having a great day. Before we dive in, take a moment to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. It really helps the channel grow. Now, let's talk about Kody Brown. He has never exactly been shy about shocking the women in his family, or let's be honest, the viewers at home. But this time? The rumors swirling around him feel bigger, messier, and far more explosive than anything we've seen before. Seemingly out of nowhere, whispers of a secret fifth woman have resurfaced, and they've spread across social media like wildfire. Longtime followers of the Brown family are buzzing, confused, and more than a little unsettled. Meanwhile, the family itself appears to be scrambling behind the scenes, trying to control the story before it fully spins out of their hands. Why? Because according to multiple high-level claims, Kody may have been quietly laying the groundwork for another spiritual marriage, all while telling the cameras that polygamy had failed him. That contradiction alone has fans questioning everything Kody has said since Christine, Janelle, and Meri walked away from him. And now, things are getting even more intense. Sources say Kody privately dropped a bombshell among family members, revealing that a woman has been spiritually tied to him for years. Suddenly, the idea of a secret woman doesn't sound so far-fetched. In fact, it starts to feel like the missing puzzle piece, one that explains so many of Kody's recent changes. His behavior, his finances, and, perhaps most noticeably, Robyn Brown's increasingly emotional breakdowns on screen. Viewers have picked up on something different in her tears lately. They don't seem rooted in fear of being alone anymore. Instead, they appear driven by jealousy, insecurity, and the unsettling realization that her position as the only wife may not be as solid as she once believed. Insiders claim Robyn was blindsided by whispers of another woman entering Kody's life, long before cameras ever started rolling. This woman is described as relatively young, deeply religious, and someone who shares Kody's belief that his previous marriages didn't fail because of polygamy, but because the women themselves lost faith. It's a narrative Kody is said to still be pushing quietly, even while publicly expressing heartbreak and frustration. And just when you think things couldn't get more dramatic, Janelle Brown reportedly added fuel to the fire. According to people close to her, she shared information that directly challenges Kody's version of events. Janelle suggests she sensed something was off years ago, when money started moving into vague investments, properties changed hands without clear explanations, and Kody became unusually guarded. He grew distant, secretive about his time, his phone, and his travels, and that's when the pieces started to feel like they didn't quite fit. These are all classic red flags, and now, in light of the fifth woman rumors, they feel far more ominous than they once did. According to Janelle, there were long stretches when Kody was emotionally checked out of the family altogether, even while insisting he was working on himself. At the time, that phrase sounded harmless, even responsible. But now, it carries a heavy double meaning. Many viewers can't help but wonder if those absences were really spent nurturing a new relationship, all under the cover of spiritual self-improvement. Things reportedly took a sharper turn when Kody, in what was described as a trusted, private circle, admitted that he never stopped believing in plural marriage. More than that, he allegedly said the idea of rebuilding with the right kind of woman had always remained on the table. That single admission changes everything. It casts Robyn's tearful on-camera claims that she wanted the family back in a far more complicated and potentially threatening light. Because if Kody has already emotionally invested in someone else, Robyn's role quietly shifts. She's no longer the cherished last wife, but another woman trying to hold on to a man who thrives on control, attention, and admiration. Viewers have noticed it too. Robyn's recent appearances are marked by visible strain, shaky explanations, guarded expressions, and attention that suggests she's fighting a battle she can't, or won't, name on camera. She continues to insist she never wanted monogamy, while at the same time benefiting from it in every obvious way. That contradiction hasn't gone unnoticed. Then there's Meri. Her silence throughout these rumors is almost deafening. While she's publicly focused on healing and independence, insiders say she may have been one of the first to hear whispers of Kody's renewed interest in plural marriage. If true, that could explain why, after years of holding on, she finally let go emotionally, realizing she was never going to be the woman Kody chose to rebuild his future with. Christine, watching from a distance, seems less shocked and more quietly validated. Fans remember her long-standing belief that Kody was never truly done seeking attention elsewhere. And perhaps the most damaging claim of all comes from Janelle, who allegedly suggested that the family's financial chaos wasn't just bad planning, but intentional diversion. She believes money may have been funneled towards securing a future that excluded most of the original wives. If proven true, it would recast Kody's public complaints about poverty and sacrifice in a devastating new light. As these revelations ripple outward, fans are rewatching everything. Every confessional, every awkward pause, every uneasy glance. They're pointing to moments when Robyn looked caught off guard off camera, when Kody spoke cryptically about starting over, and when Janelle's sadness hardened into sharp-eyed skepticism. And now, the idea of a secret fifth woman feels less like tabloid gossip and more like the next logical chapter in a story built on secrecy, power struggles, and emotional manipulation. Because in the end, Kody Brown has always demanded to be at the center of something bigger than himself. And when the family he built began to fall apart, the idea that he might already be planning a new one feels disturbingly on brand. That possibility leaves Robyn facing the very fate she once said she feared most. It leaves Janelle feeling both vindicated and furious. And it has fans bracing themselves for what could become the most explosive sister wives revelation yet. One that threatens to rewrite the entire legacy of the Brown family. It also raises an uncomfortable question no one can ignore anymore. If Kody was never truly done with plural marriage, then was the heartbreak of his wives simply collateral damage in his endless pursuit of control, devotion, and a story where he's always the victim, never the villain? As the fallout from the alleged fifth woman revelation continues to spread, the pressure surrounding Kody Brown has reached a level longtime viewers say feels darker and more calculated than anything the show has ever revealed. What once looked like a man overwhelmed by the collapse of his family now appears, to many observers, like someone who may have been quietly orchestrating his next chapter long before the dust ever settled. That interpretation grows stronger with insider claims that Kody's so-called bombshell admission about a secret spiritual connection wasn't an accidental slip at all. Instead, it may have been a controlled disclosure designed to test loyalty, stir fear, and remind everyone still emotionally attached to him that he remains the center of gravity. If true, it would explain Robyn's increasingly raw reactions, the trembling voice, the guarded expressions, and the clear sense that her tears now come not just from grief, but from the fear of losing her position as Kody's emotional anchor. Because while Robyn has long insisted she never wanted to be the only wife, the reality of another woman entering the picture threatens the comfort, financial security, and influence she gained after the others stepped away. And sources say this alleged fifth woman isn't just a vague idea or rumor. She's described as someone already woven into Kody's life through shared beliefs, private communication, and what insiders call spiritual alignment. That phrase alone raises alarms for longtime viewers. We've heard it before. In the Brown family, similar language has often been used to justify emotional affairs long before they ever became officially sanctioned relationships. Seen through that lens, Janelle's explosive claims feel less like bitterness and more like a long overdue reckoning. According to those close to her, Janelle believes the family didn't fracture because the women lacked faith, but because Kody's deep need for admiration and obedience could no longer be met by wives who were becoming more independent, financially aware, and emotionally grounded. For someone like Kody, the idea of a new, deeply compliant partner wouldn't just be tempting, it would feel almost inevitable. And this is where the financial trail becomes especially troubling. Janelle's long-standing concerns about diverted funds suddenly take on new meaning. Fans are rethinking scenes where she expressed confusion over missing money, vague explanations about land development, and Kody's sudden defensiveness whenever finances came up. Moments that once seemed messy or careless now look unsettlingly consistent with someone preparing to fund a future that did not include the women who helped build his past. And Robyn's role in all of this remains one of the most fiercely debated topics among viewers. Some people see her as another victim of Kody's manipulation, no different from the other wives. Others, however, argue that her long-standing habit of presenting herself as the agreeable, understanding partner makes it hard to ignore another possibility, that she truly believes she would always be the final choice. The faithful, compliant wife rewarded for her loyalty, only to realize, perhaps too late, that Kody's hunger for validation doesn't stop once he gets it. It only grows. The idea that Robyn might now be facing competition seems to have added a sharp edge to her recent confessionals. Her words often sound carefully rehearsed, but her emotions spill out anyway, unsteady, raw, and hard to contain. It's as if she's struggling to reconcile the image she's tried to project with the reality that's slipping out of her control. Meri's noticeable absence from these rumors only fuels more speculation. Insiders suggest she recognized this pattern years ago, watching Kody slowly detach emotionally while leaving just enough connection to keep her hoping. Eventually, she may have realized that his vision for the future never included repairing what was broken between them. That realization, painful as it was, may explain why she finally chose to step away. Christine, meanwhile, stands as a quiet contrast to all of this turmoil. Her confidence after divorce and her very public happiness act as a silent rebuttal to everything Kody has claimed about loyalty, sacrifice, and the supposed shortcomings of his wives. Without saying a word, she challenges the story he's tried to tell. As fans dig through every scrap of information, cryptic social media posts, offhand comments from older episodes, and awkward moments that once seemed meaningless, a troubling narrative starts to take shape. The collapse of the Brown family doesn't look like a sudden implosion caused by rebellion or outside stress. Instead, it feels like a slow unraveling, driven by a man who could no longer control women who were beginning to recognize their own worth. Seen that way, the idea of a secret fifth woman isn't shocking at all. It's tragically predictable. Because if there's one pattern Kody Brown has repeated time and again, it's this: admiration without responsibility, devotion without equality, and love without real compromise. And now, as the rumors continue to swirl and the possibility of another hidden relationship hangs in the air, viewers are left wondering what comes next. Will the next season of Sister Wives finally pull back the curtain on what's been happening behind closed doors? Or will the truth remain buried beneath tears, distractions, and carefully crafted narratives, leaving Robyn clinging to a fading sense of security, Janelle standing firm in her resolve to never be blindsided again, and Kody once more rewriting history in a desperate attempt to cast himself not as the architect of the family's downfall, but as a misunderstood man forever searching for loyalty in a world that has finally stopped giving it to him? As speculation about Kody Brown's alleged fifth woman refuses to fade, the conversation has shifted. It's no longer just about whether such a relationship exists, but how long it may have been unfolding, right under everyone's noses. Fans are now rewatching earlier seasons with fresh eyes and noticing patterns that once seemed harmless, but now feel almost impossible to ignore. Kody's constant complaints about feeling disrespected, his fixation on obedience and loyalty, traits that once sounded like philosophical grumbling, now look more like a checklist. To many viewers, it feels as though he was already searching for something new, while his marriages were quietly unraveling. This re-examination has also intensified the spotlight on Robyn Brown. Her emotional breakdowns no longer come across as forced or performative. Instead, they feel like the result of long-term anxiety, almost as if she's been carrying information she couldn't publicly acknowledge, all while desperately trying to maintain the image that she and Kody were united against the world. Sources suggest Robyn may have learned about the possibility of another woman far earlier than most people realized, possibly even before Janelle officially left. That timing could explain Robyn's increasingly frantic insistence that plural marriage was supposed to work, along with her repeated claims that she felt robbed of the full sister-wife experience. Those statements now sound less like simple nostalgia and more like a strategic effort to position herself as the wronged party, even as she privately struggled with the fear of being replaced. Meanwhile, Janelle's explosive information continues to hang over everything like a ticking time bomb. According to those close to her, she didn't just suspect emotional infidelity, she became convinced that Kody's behavior had shifted in ways that stress alone couldn't explain. Financial decisions started happening without her input. Conversations grew vague and evasive, and Kody's temper flared whenever she pressed for clear answers. When paired with rumors of a secret spiritual bond, it paints a troubling picture of a man quietly preparing an exit while blaming everyone else for the collapse. That theory gains even more traction when fans revisit Kody's increasingly harsh treatment of Christine and Janelle toward the end of their marriages. Their independence was framed as betrayal, while Kody absolved himself of any responsibility to nurture those relationships. It's a mindset that fits uncomfortably well with the idea that he had already emotionally moved on. And then there's the alleged fifth woman herself, still unnamed, but described by insiders as a reset for Kody. Someone untouched by the family's long history. Someone willing to accept his version of events. Someone who allegedly views questioning him as disloyalty. A prospect like that would naturally terrify Robyn, who built her role around being the wife who understood him best, only to realize that understanding alone may not compete with novelty and unquestioning admiration. Seen this way, Meri's quiet withdrawal from the chaos now feels like one of the most emotionally intelligent moves in the entire saga. After years of emotional limbo, her decision to detach reads less like surrender and more like clarity. It's almost as if Meri realized that Kody's future was never going to involve healing old wounds, but replacing the people who reminded him those wounds ever existed. And Christine's life after divorce only sharpens that contrast. She's thriving, confident, and visibly happier, standing as a living contradiction to Kody's claim that the women who left him would regret it. Her joy quietly dismantles his narrative of abandonment and betrayal. As more pieces fall into place, the idea that the Brown family's collapse was carefully orchestrated rather than accidental becomes harder and harder to dismiss. Time and again, Kody positioned himself as the victim of circumstances he helped create. He used anger and blame as shields against accountability, all while reshaping his world to fit his own needs. And Robyn's tears, once seen as proof of devotion, now feel layered with something darker. Fear, resentment, and the slow realization that tying herself so closely to Kody may not have brought the security she believed it would. Because if he can discard decades-long relationships in pursuit of something new, then no amount of loyalty can ever guarantee permanence. Janelle's determination to protect herself, both financially and emotionally, now reads like hard-earned wisdom. The resolve of someone who refuses to be blindsided again, even as the public slowly arrives at conclusions she reached long ago. Viewers, caught between fascination and frustration, are left wondering how much of this story will ever truly be acknowledged on camera. Sister Wives has always walked a fine line between honesty and control, revealing just enough truth to keep audiences invested while hiding the most uncomfortable realities. And if the rumors of a fifth woman are even partly true, they threaten to shatter the show's original promise. They expose plural marriage not as a shared spiritual journey, but as a system that allowed one man to continually reset his life, while others paid the emotional cost. As anticipation builds for what may come next, one thing has become painfully clear to longtime fans. Kody Brown's story is no longer just about love, faith, or family. It's about power, pride, and the consequences of refusing to grow. Robyn clings to a narrative that's slipping through her fingers. Janelle stands firm in her truth. Christine flourishes beyond his reach. And Meri, at last, seems free from false hope. Which leaves viewers with one lingering, unsettling question that refuses to go away. If the rumors of a fifth woman are true, how much of what we were shown was ever real? And how much was carefully staged to hide a secret that changes everything? And as speculation around Kody Brown's alleged fifth woman continues to refuse to die, the focus once again circles back, not to if it happened, but how long it may have been happening in plain sight. Fans are rewatching earlier seasons with new eyes, spotting patterns that once seemed minor but now feel impossible to ignore. Kody's constant complaints about disrespect, his fixation on obedience and loyalty, traits that now look less like casual philosophy and more like requirements he was quietly shopping for as his marriages fell apart. This new way of looking at the past has only intensified the focus on Robyn Brown. Her emotional breakdowns now seem less staged or robotic, and more like the result of long-term anxiety. Almost as if she's been carrying information she couldn't openly admit, all while desperately trying to preserve the image that she and Kody were united against the world. According to sources, Robyn may have learned about the possibility of another woman far earlier than most viewers realize, possibly even before Janelle officially walked away. If that's true, it would explain Robyn's increasingly frantic insistence that plural marriage was supposed to work, along with her repeated claims that she felt robbed of the full sister-wife experience. Those statements now feel less like simple nostalgia and more like a calculated attempt to present herself as the wounded party, even as she privately struggled with fear and a sense of being pushed aside. Meanwhile, Janelle's explosive information continues to loom over everything like a ticking time bomb. People close to her say she didn't just suspect emotional infidelity, she became convinced that Kody's behavior had changed in ways that stress or frustration alone could never explain. Financial decisions started happening without her knowledge. Conversations became vague and evasive, and Kody's temper flared whenever she asked for clarity. When those behaviors are viewed alongside rumors of a secret spiritual connection, they paint a troubling picture. A man quietly preparing an exit strategy while blaming everyone else for the damage left behind. This theory gains even more weight when fans revisit Kody's increasingly harsh language toward Christine and Janelle in the final stages of their marriages. Viewers notice how he framed their independence as betrayal, while at the same time excusing himself from any real responsibility to nurture those relationships. It's a mindset that lines up disturbingly well with the idea that Kody had already emotionally moved on. And then there's the alleged fifth woman herself, still unnamed, but described by insiders as a kind of reset for Kody. A woman with no baggage from the Brown family's long history. someone willing to accept his version of events without challenge, someone who reportedly views questioning him not as healthy dialogue, but as disloyalty. That possibility alone would understandably shake Robyn to her core. After all, she built her place in the family on being the wife who understood Kody best, the one who spoke his language, the one who stood by him. But understanding, it seems, may no longer be enough when novelty and unquestioning admiration enter the picture. Meri's quiet withdrawal from all of this now reads as one of the most emotionally intelligent choices in the entire story. After years spent in emotional limbo, her eventual detachment feels less like giving up and more like gaining clarity. Almost as if she finally accepted that Kody's future was never going to involve healing old wounds, but replacing the people who reminded him those wounds existed in the first place. Christine's life after divorce only sharpens that contrast. She's thriving, confident, joyful, and visibly at peace. Her happiness stands as a living rebuttal to Kody's claims of abandonment and betrayal, and a clear contradiction to his insistence that the women who left him would come to regret it. As more pieces fall into place, the idea that the Brown family's collapse was orchestrated rather than accidental becomes increasingly difficult to dismiss. Time and again, Kody positioned himself as the victim of circumstances he helped create. He leaned on anger and blame as shields against accountability, all while quietly reshaping his world to meet his own needs. And Robyn's tears, once seen as proof of deep devotion, now feel layered with something heavier: fear, resentment, and the growing realization that aligning herself so closely with Kody may not have brought the lasting security she believed it would. Because if he can discard decades-long relationships in pursuit of something new, then no amount of loyalty can ever truly guarantee permanence.